All right, so here we're going to be factoring trinomials. This is the guess and check method. I'm going to do 2 or 3 different methods, so make sure you're paying attention that this is the guess and check method. Keep each method clear and coherent as you're going through. If you pick one and you love it and you're good at it, stick with it, okay? So this is the guess and check method. All right. When it comes to the guess and check method, this requires you to have an understanding of what's going on. So I need you to understand that this is the undoing of binomial distribution, which you probably know this as FOIL. So this is FOIL backwards. Really, it's binomial distribution backwards. And really quickly, I'm just going to a plus b times c plus d. I'm gonna quote FOIL these out just so that you could see what's gonna happen. You're used to multiplying a binomial times a binomial, right? You end up with a times c, and then plus a times d, plus b times c, plus b times d. All right, so these two guys are always at the front, and these two guys are always at the end. In general, there's some sort of commonality here, and we would get these together and we'd have a 1, 2, 3 terms, right? So what I'm trying to get after is that what we need to do is, if we start with a trinomial and we're trying to get to 2 binomials here, just know that the first term of the trinomial is the product of these 2 spots, and the last term of the trinomial is the product of these 2 spots. Okay? So we need to break the first and the last term down, and that's how we're going to get started. Then we're going to make a guess as to what we think the binomials are going to be. It's going to be an educated guess. And then the third part is that we have to check it. Okay? So if I'm going to put steps together, so steps for guess and check. 1, I need to find factors of the first and last term. Number 2, I'm going to guess the combination, so to speak. And part 3, I'm going to check to see if it's right. So I'm going to check the outer inner products. And let's do an example so that you can see this. So here's the example that we're going to start with. If I have x squared minus 11x plus 10. All right, I know I need to get this into a binomial times a binomial. So the directions are going to simply say factor. No factor. Those are the directions. I need to factor x squared minus 11x plus 10. All right, well, I know for sure that it's going to turn into a binomial times a binomial. So binomial times a binomial. So I might as well go ahead and get those started, and I'm going to get those put out there. Now, because this is guess and check, I have to get a pencil out. It might not show up, but I'll definitely rewrite the answers and everything in pen. So, since we're doing guess and check, and I might have to do some erasing, I have to bring the pencil out. Okay, so what we saw before, we know, right? We know that the first term came from the first spots here and here, right? So I know that these first spots here and here came from this. Well, the only way I can get x squared, the only way I can get an x squared is by multiplying x times x. That's the only way I'll get an x squared. Now, there's a lot of options when it comes to 10, right? 10, and here, this is where I'm going to list all of the factors. Right, so finding factors. I'm going to list all the factors of this guy. So 1 and 10, 2 and 5, and I'm done. Right, I can count. And I suggest that you do it in this way. Count 1, 2, 3 on this side and just divide whatever that number is until you can't go any further, right? 3 doesn't go into 10, 4 doesn't go into 10, and 5 is already on the right-hand side, so I don't need to worry about it. Now, the hints that I'm going to give you is that you usually want to start with the ones that are closest together. Usually. So here, let's try that out. So if I put my 2 in here and my 5 in here, now I'm going to see what's my second sign. So now, up in our notes section up here, I need to pay attention to what's called the second sign rule. The second sign rule. If the second sign is a positive, and I'm talking about this sign right here. Here's the first sign, and here's the second sign. So the second sign in this one is a positive. Then that means that the signs of my binomial signs, are the same. If the second sign is a negative, if this were a negative, then my binomial signs would be different. So binomial signs are different. And I'm talking about these down here. So since the second sign is a positive, I know that these signs have to be the same. Well, if they're going to be the same, then they both have to be whatever the first sign is. So if my second sign is a positive, then I have to check. Well, what's this? It's negative, so I have to put a minus and a minus. Now, I have to check. So I've made a guess. Here's my guess. And now I need to check the outer and the inner product. So I'm going to check the outside. X times negative 5 is a negative 5x. Negative 2 times x is a negative 2x. I want to add. At this point, right here, I need to, excuse me. When I check the outside and the inside, it makes this like weird looking smile. So the I'll call it the OI smiley face at times. But here we need to add. Negative 2, negative 5 gives me a negative 7x. Well, I needed it to be a negative 11x. So I know that this is wrong. So now I have to erase. Now, I could switch the 2 and the 5, put the 5 here and the 2 here. That's one option that I have whenever I guess and I'm wrong. One of my options is to switch my numbers. If these signs are different, I could switch the signs, but that's kind of irrelevant. I can't switch a negative and a negative, and if I put the 5 over here and the 2 over here, I'd end up with a negative 7 still. So that just tells me that these factors are wrong, and I need to go with 1 and 10. So I go to my next set of factors. Well, x times negative 10 is a negative 10x. Negative 1 times x is a negative x. Negative x and negative 10x is negative 11x. And that's what I wanted. I wanted a negative 11x. So that tells me then that my factors for this are going to be x minus 1 and x minus 10. All right, let's try another one here. Let's try another one. We'll do 2 more here. All right, so the next one I want to try, what happens if that second sign is a negative, huh? All right, so let's take a look. If I have x squared plus 4x minus 12, well, okay. I know I need to get my binomials put together, all right? So x squared, the only combination for these two terms to give me an x squared is x times x. So I know the x's are going to go here. Now I go to my 12. I have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. All right? So I want to start with the ones that are closest together. So 3 and 4. And the bigger one, so since it's a, here we go. Second sign is a negative. So that tells me I have different signs. And the bigger of these two is going to end up with the first sign. So here it's going to be positive. So I'm going to say plus and minus. All right, so I'm going to say that again. You might want to write this down. The second sign is a negative, meaning that my binomial signs are going to be different. Since my binomial signs are different, the bigger one is going to get the first sign. Well, 3 and 4, 4 is bigger than 3, so 4 gets the plus. Now I've made a guess. Now I need to check. So x times 4 is 4x. Negative 3 times x is a negative 3x. Negative 3x plus 4x is just a 1x. Well, that's not going to get me there. All right, so I could switch my signs around, but I already know that breaks my second sign rule. So the only other option now is to switch my numbers. So I'm going to go with 2 and 6. So second sign is negative. They have to have different signs, a positive and a negative. And the bigger one's going to get the positive. So the bigger one here in 6 gets the plus sign. So now x times 6 is 6x. Negative 2 times x is a negative 2x. Negative 2x plus 6x is 4x. Hey, that's what I was looking for, right? I needed a 4x, so these are my factors.